You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Have you ever thought, why are my students so anxious? How can I get them to calm down? I'm definitely not a behavior specialist. I wish the teachers didn't think I have a magic wand. I need more tricks up my sleeve than just deep breathing exercises. I wish I could help my students more, but I just don't know how. Well, if you've ever thought any of those thoughts, you are not alone, and you are going to love my training on how to help students break the stress cycle, the anxiety management tool that you didn't learn in grad school. This anxiety management strategy that I'll be sharing has been a complete game changer for me, y'all. It's no surprise that kids are anxious now more than ever, right? And as a counselor, I knew my students struggled with anxiety, but I wanted to offer them more than just the same old deep breathing exercises. But once I started researching the stress cycle and the physiological effects of anxiety back in 2019, I was obsessed. It just made sense to me. Knowing I have the tools to help students self-regulate and return to class ready to learn has allowed me to feel confident and prepared to deal with anxiety. Whatever the reason is that you're looking into this training, I get it, and I want to empower you to help your students. This is a free live training that I'm offering. I don't want you to miss it. You're going to love it, and you're going to learn so much. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/stress cycle to save your seat today. And we're offering a few different times so you can find the one that works best for you. Again, it's stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/stress cycle. Okay, let's go to today's episode. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. In today's episode, we're going to continue our discussion about how you can use a curriculum map each month to decide what to do across each tier. So being the month of March, I'm pulling out a sample of my curriculum map to show you some recommended class lessons, small groups, and individual counseling activities, as well as data tools to use with your students at this time of year. Now I have a freebie for you. Don't miss the freebie, guys. Go to bit.ly/counseling lesson plans to get your own free editable curriculum map, which includes lesson plans for the entire school year. You don't want to miss this, so that way you can follow along with me. And like I said, I'm just kind of giving you a sneak peek of what March would look like as a sample during this episode or this podcast series, but the freebie includes everything for the entire year. So don't miss it, bit.ly/counseling lesson plans. Okay, so like I said, I'm walking you through tier by tier. If you didn't listen to the last couple episodes, I encourage you to go back and do so. We talked about Tier 1 self-regulation lesson and Tier 2 academic skills small group. But now we're going to talk about Tier 3, which is our individual counseling. Now, individual counseling, like group counseling, is typically referral based. So you'll receive referrals on something, and that's how you decide who you're seeing and the topic you're seeing them for. We're not necessarily recruiting kiddos for this. You don't need to, because I'm sure you have referrals coming out of your ears. And likely some of those referrals are going to be on divorce. You may have many students whose parents are going through divorce, and as common as it is and as normalized as it is, divorce can still be really traumatic for the child who's going through it. So in today's episode, I want to give you some ideas of activities that you could use in a one-on-one session working with a student on divorce. And you can use these activities, like I said, with students whose parents are going through a divorce or separation. And I'm going to share a few different activities as well as some potential journal prompts. And you could divide this up over multiple sessions, or you can, take one activity and dive deeper. You're going to see how often you need to meet with the child based on the need. But I'm just here to give you a few ideas, and then you know best on how frequently to implement it. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. So first up, regarding individual activities that you could do with divorce, I think it's so important to do a before and after activity. So you can kind of, discuss what's changed. What did your life look like before? What did your life look like after? I like to do this with illustration, have the students draw a picture of their life before the parents' divorce and a life after, and then you can discuss what's different. As well as those more reflective, abstract activities, I like to do something very tangible and practical, which is a living arrangement calendar. So what you could do is you can help students get organized. They may, I see this all the time where a kid forgets homework or they leave a book or something, because they were at dad's house or they were at mom's house. And, you feel so bad for them. They're like trying to stay organized as hard enough as it is as a child. And then you're split between the two houses. So you can help them, help them make a schedule. What days are you going to be where? How does that feel? Are you going to be at dad's every other weekend? Are you seeing your parents, more frequently than that? Are your parents still going to live together for a while but be divorced? Everyone's situation is different, but I think it can be really helpful to help them make a visual calendar of what days they'll be where. And then they can make a little packing list so they make sure that they, don't forget things. So, of course, they'll have probably clothes at both sets, toys at both sets. But if they have a special stuffy or something they really don't want to forget, help them make a little checklist so they can be sure to have their comfort items at both houses. Another fun thing you can do is you could make real banana splits, or you can just make a craft banana split, but to recommend coping strategies. And we like to use banana splits because it's like splitting up. It's a little play on words there. But they can build their banana split, so 3 different scoops of ice cream plus a cherry on top, to talk about different coping skills they want to use when they're feeling upset about their parents' divorce. So maybe it's talking with a trusted friend or adult, exercising, listening to music, taking deep breaths, going outside, journaling, doing yoga, whatever their thing is. You can help them identify some potential coping skills and to build that banana split. Now, this is fun because it's going to vary from student to student, and you can see, how different students need different things. I love to use journals with my individual students. Now, depending on the age and developmental level, maybe the journal is open-ended and they're just writing a lot about how they're feeling. But if you're looking for something with a little more guidance, here are a couple of ideas. So you can talk about how there's been different, a lot of changes, but some have been hard, some have been easy, and some have been medium difficulty. And so you can have them sort those. So you can have a visual of like 3 different categories, and then they're sorting the different changes. So this could even be a list, right? Sometimes students are hesitant to journal because they're like, I don't want to sit down and write, a 5-sentence paragraph or whatever, but they can just go in and make little bullet points. What's been easy about this transition? What's been medium and what's been difficult? You can also have a visual of like a mountain, a peak and a valley, and they can write what some peaks have been and what some valleys have been. What are some highs and lows of living between the 2 houses? And you can also have kind of like a 2-part thing here where they're splitting up their initial reaction of their parents' divorce and their current reaction. So how did they initially feel about it, and then how do they feel about it now? And have those feelings changed? So some guided visual journals can be a really cool way to get students to open up and write more rather than just giving them that blank piece of paper. That can be pretty intimidating. And with an individual student, let them pick out their journal. We can decorate your journal, make it like a really cool personal thing, and then they can even continue to journal in an outside of session. I also like to show the visual of a toolbox, and they can do a coping skills toolbox where on the hammer, they write a coping skill, on the screwdriver, on the saw, whatever, and then they have a visual of that toolbox as well. Now, next week I'm going to talk all about data tools. This week is just about individual counseling, but I do want to touch on individual counseling data tools because I do want to share that I think it's important to do the behavior surveys for individual students, especially in a topic like divorce. So in addition to doing a self-assessment, which I always recommend to see the students, self-perceived progress, how they're feeling before the divorce, before the sessions, and how they're feeling after, you can also get behavior data from parents and teachers. So ask parents and teachers to fill out a pre-counseling behavior survey and post-counseling to see if the counseling's helping, if they're noticing a change in any behaviors at home and at school. So I did just want to kind of plug those because I love using those behavior surveys. Again, guys, don't forget, I want you to join me in my free live training. You're going to love it. I'm going to be sharing how you can help students break the stress cycle, the anxiety management tool that you didn't learn in grad school, but you can learn it with me. So show up live. It's going to be great. I'm giving out PD certificates and freebies to everyone who attends. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/stress cycle to save your seat. Okay, guys, I hope you found this episode super helpful, and I'll talk to you next week. See ya.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.